Hello, hello, come one, come all ye faithful to stall number 2 in live studio recording of the number 2 show. I'm your host, Rafe Williams, also a host of the number 1 show, the Rizzuto Show in the morning. Just got done with that, and now here I am like a little worker bee coming in here to take a poop break, but I don't stop working for you just because I got a poo-poo. No. I come into a stall and I put on one hell of an impromptu, improvised podcast for you. It's live, it's all made up, and it's all off the top of my head, and that could be disastrous. So if nothing else, tune in just to see if I take a big shit right here live on YouTube. So all you poop heads, all you number 2-a-thons, all you dookie lights out there, still workshopping names for you guys. I try to come up with something new every week. Welcome to the number 2 show. I am here. I am ready to party. I am available to you at the phone number 818-532-1420. That's 818-532-1420. Get your parents' permission before you call, and make sure when you do, you're horny. That's 818-532-1420. You don't actually have to be horny. Some restrictions apply. Call in if you want to chat with me live. I like to have people call in. There'll be a segment of the show where I take live phone calls. I like when people call in with real problems or need real advice or have something interesting to talk about, something that would spur a good roundtable discussion. I also have a whole bunch of comments from the mailbag and past emails that I've gotten from people of stuff they'd like me to discuss on the show, and we'll get to all that. Right now, we're just going to do a cold open. Sometimes I just like to chat up top about some topical things going on. I saw one of my favorite shows. I don't know if you guys are watching the show The Boys on Amazon. Amazing show about superheroes. It's based off of a graphic novel I like a lot. Made by Eric Kripke, who was also the producer of one of my guilty pleasures, was the show Supernatural. It went on about 15 seasons longer than it needed to, but it was a really great show on the WB. He was executive producer of that. He went on to make The Boys. The guy who played Dean Winchester was also cast in the new season of The Boys. So it's nice to see him getting out of the Dean character that he played for 20 years. But I really like the show. They just announced the premiere of season 4 is this week, and with that premiere, they also announced today that season 5 has been greenlit and will be the final season as planned of The Boys, which is exciting. Because I love it when a show gets to tell its story. There is nothing more annoying to me, and I want to talk about this, and feel free to call in or put something in the chat. What's a show that never got to finish that you wish you knew how it ended? That happens to me so often. Westworld is a good example. They let it get up to the final. Like, what story was Jonathan Nolan trying to tell? We're never going to know unless he tells us. It drives me fucking bananas when I get invested in a show and it gets canceled or it doesn't get to do, even Supernatural. I will be honest with you. I hope they go back and redo the final season. I love Eric Kripke. The final season was in 2020 in the peak of COVID. There were so many characters in that show. It was on the air for like 16 years. There were so many characters that they needed to tell that story and have it come to a good close. And they just couldn't have that many actors on set. They had to kind of make do, make some cuts. And I would really like to see the final season of Supernatural redone and to keep going. But there's all sorts of shows out there that I've gotten invested in. Firefly is another one that comes to mind. Used to love that show when it came out. I believe it was Joss Whedon's, one of his, before he ever entered the Marvel Universe. They had a show called Firefly that had the meathead-looking guy. Kind of looks like he could be my brother a little bit, from Castle as the main guy. It was kind of a Western space adventure. It was fun, and it was cool. And it was Joss Whedon telling a pretty good story about space adventures. And I think it had one season, and then it got flushed. And I know that's one that people wish they could have back. So I'm excited for The Boys. I'm excited for Eric Kripke. You get to have the final say in telling your story and letting it play out the way you intended. Because he said he always intended for it to be 5 seasons. So that gets me excited. I love when a creative person and a storyteller gets to tell the story the way they want it, because that happens a lot too in Hollywood. I've read sometimes shit goes on too long. Lost is a perfect example of this. I believe that when J.J. Abrams made Lost, he wanted it to be 3 seasons, beginning, middle, end. And it was such a big hit out of the gate that the network was like, all right, we want to do 15 seasons. And he was like, fuck that. No, I'll give you 5. And the network was like 13. And they got in the old school negotiations. He's like, okay, 6. And they're like 9. And then eventually they settled on whatever number they settled on. Writer's strike happened. Lost went off the rails. And now there's a saying in every writer's room, don't introduce polar bears, which is based off of Lost, when they had so many loose ends that they just didn't bother explaining in that show. So it is nice to see when a show has a beginning, middle, and end plan. Good examples of this. The show Dark on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, it is a German show. It is one of the best shows I've watched in the last 10 years. It's 3 seasons. A husband and wife wrote it. It has a beginning, a middle season, and an end season. And it all ties together nicely. It's a very good telling of a story. It never got stretched out longer than it should have been, and it didn't get cut off before its prime. I recommend that show. You got to watch it with the subtitles on, though. You'll get used to it. Otherwise, if you do American dub over German acting, it gets too fucking weird. The emotions don't match up, and it's a very emotional show. Another great example is Breaking Bad. That was always planned to be the number of seasons it was. Vince Gilligan pitched it that way. AMC approved it that way, and that was a great bit of storytelling. So, congratulations to Eric Kripke, and congratulations to the boys and all the actors in that show for getting to complete the story. It's a wonderful, wonderful show. If you guys haven't watched it, don't watch it with kids. It is not for kids. It is a very graphic telling of what it might be like in the real world to have superheroes live, where they would have they're not all cool. Some of them are real big pieces of shit, and they have PR teams that manage them just like celebrities today. It's a very nice satirical take on celebrity, honestly, and the world that we live in and the way we worship celebrities. It's very, very well done, and I recommend the show. But anyway, feel free to call in if there's any shows, or just leave me something in the chat. We don't need to call and talk about it, but if you got something in the chat, a show you want to talk about. Somebody says, let's see, Tulsa King. They hope Tulsa King comes back. I haven't watched that yet. I know it's a Sylvester Stallone vehicle. I'm not sure how many seasons there are, but yeah, if you're digging it, I've heard good things about it. I hope it does come back. Somebody said, I never finished Outer Range, and I still don't know what's in the damn hole. I've been watching that show quite often. I just started watching season 2 of that show, and there are some holes in the show, no pun intended, because the show is about a giant hole. It's good. It's good storytelling. I think it's Josh Brolin's first foray into directing and also acting in it, directing himself. It's got Bill Pullman's son in it, who looks just like a young Billy Pullman, the Independence Day president. You got to get on board. You got to root for that guy, right? It is a good show. It's a kind of a mystery sci-fi. It's like Yellowstone meets Twilight Zone, for lack of a better. So if you guys aren't watching that show, go watch it so it doesn't get canceled, because it's in season 2, and I'll be pissed because now I'm invested and I want to know what happens. So if nothing else, let's make this a pitch party for the shows that I'm watching. What an abuse of power. I love it. Let's see. Someone said Pillars of Earth. Never heard of that show. Let's look that up. Pillars of Earth. This better not be some bullshit. Is it a TV show? What is it? Pillars of Earth. Or is this something you want to see made into one? Oh, nope, it is one. Miniseries. When did it come out? 2010. All right. I'll check that out. Nothing else, we're all going to leave this episode of the number 2 show with a whole bunch of cool shows to watch, because check it out. It says, looks like there were 8 episodes. It was canceled. Maybe we can get it back. Pillars of Earth. Maybe this will be the show that shakes them loose. Someone said, let's talk about Supernatural, man. Dude, that's like a 20-episode mini web series. It was a good show. Here's what I'll say about Supernatural for those of you that don't know what it is. It's about two brothers who fight supernatural beasts. It's a very cool, long-running show. Pretty much kept the WB afloat for their entire 20-year time span as shows came and went. It's two young, hot-looking dudes who are brothers killing werewolves, vampires. Eventually, they fight the devil himself, angels, any kind of supernatural entity you can think of. And they're from a family of hunters. Their father trained them. Their father, spoiler alert, gets killed and sentenced to hell. They spend most of the series trying to rescue their father from hell. It's about family more than it's about anything. And at times it's melodramatic, but it's a very good show. It's about family and friends and your chosen family. Now, they jumped the shark about season 7, and it went like another 10 seasons. But the first 6 seasons of Supernatural are really good. I think once they fought the devil, I don't know how, you can't find a bigger bad than that. And then they tried to bring in this storyline about Leviathans, and it just didn't resonate in season 7. And then after that, there was an episode where they went through the looking glass and met the actor versions of themselves in an alternate universe. It gets a little wonky. There's some episodes that are a little wonky. But, dude, this was a network TV show. They had to make 26 or 27 episodes a year. There's going to be some bottle episodes that are kind of corny. But for the most part, the storyline itself is good. And a little nugget, if you do watch The Boys, there's a character in Supernatural, I believe. Hold on. I want to make sure I say it right. Oh, not Booby. That'll be a whole different screen I'm sharing. Whoopsie. Bobby Singer is a character played by Jim Beaver, who is kind of the ad hoc parental figure for the brothers in Supernatural. And that character, Bobby Singer, is also a senator in The Boys, and it's played by, you guessed it, Jim Beaver. So that's a little crossover nugget from Eric Kripke, taking some of his Supernatural world and putting it into The Boys. He also has Jensen Ackles, who played Dean, playing one of the big superheroes in last season and I believe this season of The Boys, which is dope. All right, I think we're going to take a quick break, guys, and we're going to come back. We're going to talk. I'm going to look at your chat while we're gone, and then we're going to take some freaking phone calls. We're going to be back in just a second after a word from our sponsor, Assisted Suicide. It's never too late to make a decision that Jack Kevorkian would be proud of. Don't forget, this holiday season, if you have a family member struggling, and it's all consensual, assisted suicide. And we're back, and it turns out that sponsor just dropped us. I did not. So whatever you're doing, do not practice assisted suicide. Turns out it is not legal in any of the 50 states. That's on me. I did not vet that sponsor. I hope that that won't be problematic for airing this episode. That is not a sponsor. Do not engage in any company selling you those wares. Thank you very much. You can reach me at 818-532-1420. That's 818-532-1420. And we can chat about whatever. I believe I got a couple of phone calls up in the club. So let's see who's calling in and what they have to say. Hope I do this right. Hello, you've reached the number 2 show. You're talking to Rafe Williams, host of the number 2 show. Who am I talking to, and what can we talk about?
What's up, Rafe? This is your old pal, Electric Outcast.
Oh, hey, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing all right, just doing some studying, but I'm taking a break just to call you.
Okay. What you got for me today, man?
But, you were talking about The Boys. What would you do if I told you that there actually exists audiobook versions of the original comic books?
There's audiobooks of The Boys?
Yep, there is.
And it's just based off the graphic novels, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it is. And It's on a website called the Graphic Audio, a movie in your mind, and it's graphicaudio.net. And what they do is they do a full cast, cinematic music, and sound effects.
Oh, so it's like a table read almost.
In every not a table read, not a table read like a full-fledged audiobook, but it also plays out like a movie. It's not like your regular audiobooks where it's just one person doing everything in the book.
Right, they have different people playing different characters. They've added sound effects and probably someone reading the action dialogue, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I was also going to recommend the company over to you guys on the Rizzuto show, because I know Riz was looking at.
Yeah, well, this ain't the Riz show, so we don't really. We'll save that for another time. But I will say, we'll say the name of that one more time in case people want to check that out. What was the name of the website that does live reads and audiobooks?
Graphicaudio.net.
Graphicaudio.net. All right. You heard it here first, folks. If you want to hear live entertaining reading of The Boys, you can go to graphicaudio.net and check that out. Thanks, EO. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Yes, sir.
All right. And let me make sure I'm using my equipment correctly. He gone. Yeah, that's cool. That's a good thing to know. I will say everything's an audiobook now. I'm trying to figure out do you guys think audiobooks are cheating? We talk about that a lot. I like a good audiobook. I'm on the road a lot. I drive to a lot of gigs. Sometimes music gets stale. I've listened to all the podcasts I can listen to. Sometimes I like to switch it up. Pop in an audiobook. I've heard a few good ones. Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights is a very fun one to listen to. Hell, all right. Green Lights. I walked into a Cold Stone Creamery and it smelled like an angel farted. And I decided that time it was time for Matthew to have himself a little vanilla ice cream, despite the fact that I got rock hard abs and a movie coming up. So I walked in and I put down some money, and right there in the cup, they started singing a version of the Flintstones. It sounded like Flintstones, but they were saying, Cold Stones, meet the Cold Stones. It was beautiful, man. It was beautiful. And Matthew loved it. I mean, how can you not drive 6 hours listening to that man? I could literally have Matthew McConaughey read the back of shampoo bottles to me, and it would at least be somewhat entertaining. Another good audiobook, Yes, Please, by what's Amy Poehler's book called? And I'll tell you why I like it. Yes, it's called Yes, Please by Amy Poehler from 2014. And she has guests read all of the chapters. So there's a celebrity guest reading each chapter, which is very, very entertaining. And it's a surprise each chapter who's going to read it. It's a very entertaining book about SNL and comedy and stand-up and sketch. And one other one I would recommend, even if you think audiobooks are cheating, I really like, personally, Running the Light by Sam Talent. Same thing. There's a comedian friend of mine. His name is Sam Talent. He is the next Cormac McCarthy, I think. He wrote a very entertaining book about what it's like to be a stand-up comedian. It's kind of dark humor about a guy named Billy Ray Schaefer, and who is a road comic who's been doing it a long time, who's at the end of his rope. And he does the same thing. He has surprise celebrity guests. Mark Maron reads a chapter. Adam Caton Holland. There are other stand-up comedians that read each chapter. It's a very interesting. So sometimes I think the audiobook can be enhanced in some ways like that. But there are a lot of people who feel like if you say you read a book and you listen to the audiobook, you a goddamn liar. I don't think that's true. I think it just depends on your retention. Some people are tactile. Certain things I like to read, other things I like to listen. I really like to read if it's something actionable. Like let's say it's a book about how to write a screenplay. I would rather read that. Highlight things that are important to me. But if it's an autobiography or it's something in work of fiction, I don't mind listening to an audiobook. I retain a lot of it that way, and it's easy for me to do on the road. So thanks for the hot tip, EO, on where to find some audio of the graphic novel The Boys. Let's see here. Do I have anybody else on the horn? Doesn't look like it right now. So what I want to do, Since I don't have anybody calling in currently, and feel free to call in at 818-532-1420, 818-532-1420. Talk about anything that we have talked about so far on the podcast. Someone said Jensen Ackles also did a good voice work for Batman. I kind of think I'm a big proponent for my boy to be the next Batman. I think he would be a good Batman. I know he's not a household name. He's not, he wasn't in Twilight. But I think if you look at him, he's a good-looking guy. He's about the right age to play Bruce Wayne. I think he should be next up. Rafe, not a TV show, but you mentioned being on the road a lot. All right, that is not a question. That is just a statement, but thank you. Let's see what I got here, brother. Oh, how much time have you spent on the road at once throughout your life? Did you enjoy it? If so, now that you're home every night-ish, did you have trouble adapting to it? This is from Carl Drake. I'm fresh off the road and the home every night seems to have caused some tension in my current relationship. That's interesting, man. That's an interesting question, Carl. I was talking to a friend about this the other day. I am an introvert with an extroverted job. That's how I would describe myself. I really like my alone time. The fact that my partner is also a comedian makes it a little easier in my relationship. There's good understanding that I'm on the road a lot. But when you're a road dog and you got a road job, whether you're an over-the-road truck driver or maybe you're a salesperson or maybe you just have a job where you have to oversee several hubs in different parts of the country, and then all of a sudden, and your family life is adjusted to that. Like maybe your partner, your wife, or your husband, or whatever have gotten used to you not being there and having some of their alone time and having time to miss one another. And then all of a sudden you're stacked up on top of one another. I mean, we saw that during COVID. A lot of people got divorced during COVID because they were like, man, this person sucks to be around. I could see that being a tough adjustment and having tension in your relationship. I haven't had a lot of trouble adapting to being home because I still go out on the road on the weekends. But I like being home. I like my house. I like being in my house. I think the road life is just something that I have adapted to. Whether I like it or not, I've adapted to it to where I don't even think about it anymore. I've just learned to live that life. But in all honesty, I like being home at night. I like sleeping in my own bed. I like to travel and adventure, but when I'm on the road for work, I don't necessarily like living out of a hotel. I kind of feel pent up. You know, you spend a few nights in a hotel and you start to feel like you're in a little cage built just for you that has a desk and maybe one bottled water per day. You start to feel like a little gerbil in there. I don't like that much. But I hate to hear that it's causing problems in your relationship. I've adapted well. Also, Tina has been on the road a lot, my partner. So I've had the house to myself. That makes it a little easier to adapt. It's definitely an adjustment, getting up early now to do morning radio when you live with someone who is a night owl and very loud can cause problems in the relationship. But I've learned to just put on a podcast, put some earbuds in, try to live and let live, because I'm cramping her style as much as she's cramping mine, and you just kind of live through it and love through it. That's all you can do. And talk about it. If something's bugging you, put it on the table. Maybe you just need, maybe you guys need a little time apart. I think that's a good thing in a relationship. I think relationships get weird when people start to draw their identity from one another and everything is like, it becomes this like weird little supermarket sweep team that it's like Doug and Shirley. We're Doug and Shirley. You can call us Shuggy. We're Durley, but we're one human being. We're not individuals anymore. We don't have our own likes, needs, or interests. We're just one big conglomerate that works together, because if we don't, it might mean we don't love each other or have a good marriage. All right, it looks like I have a caller because I accidentally dropped my phone line like an a-hole. So Let's patch him through, Zane. See what we got. Hello, you reached the number 2 show. Who am I talking to? Sorry if you got dumped this caller earlier.
You're fine, Race. My name's Valerie. Just call it first-time caller, long-time listener.
Hello, Valerie.
And I was listening to your show from last week. Sorry.
That's okay.
I was listening to your show from last week. You were talking about, like, military and pooping. So, question. My husband he was military, retired out. Whenever he wipes, he stands up to poop, or he stands up to wipe. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Hard-hitting question, Valerie. Thank you so much for calling in. I'll give you my thoughts on that. He stands up to wipe. Does he stand all the way up?
Yes.
Like he's completely vertical, like he's saluting the flag?
I mean, there's a little bend, like, as you kind of, like, squat to get down there, but other than that, I mean, it's fully standing up.
Yeah.
And I've never seen it in my life until I met him. Obviously, I married him, love of my life, but still, just a hilarious situation.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he has the hubris to do that in front of you is hilarious to me. I mean, I guess to each their own. It seems like if you stood up too much, your cheeks would squeeze together and do a lot of damage before you can get in there to do damage control. But maybe he's got a method that works for him. And I would say at least he's not going down in between his legs and pulling everything forward to make it your problem later on in the bedroom. So be grateful. He's got a little unorthodox. He's like a left-handed boxer, you know. He's like a southpaw. It's like a little unorthodox style, but still able to fight. And I think that that's important for the United States and for our veterans. So I salute your husband and his full standing ass wipe. Here's to you, ex-military dude. What's his name?
Jeremy.
Jeremy, here's to you, bud. I'm saluting him live on the cams in case you can't see that. But I'm going to drop Valerie. Thank you for calling in. I got another caller, so I'm going to take that call. Thanks, Val. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right, patching me through the mainframe, Zane, into this next caller. All right, hello. You've reached the number 2 show.
Hey,
Who am I
Rafe,
talking
love
to?
your show.
Hello?
My name is John. How you doing, Rafe?
Hello, John. How are you, buddy?
How are you?
I'm good, man.
I'm well.
What can I do for you today,
spend
John?
a lot of time on the road. So I have a question about things that you might see on your travels on American roads.
Okay.
I notice a lot here in St. Louis, at least. I happen to see shoes on the side of the road at intersections along the highway. And it's like a mystery to me how these shoes get tossed out of a car at random intervals. I don't understand it. Have you ever thought about, have you ever seen shoes on the side of the road and just thought, who's throwing shoes out of the car?
Okay.
Am I the
No.
only one?
No, I think you may be off your meds, John, and that's okay. Sometimes we all get off of them, and we start to see things that are, you know, a little obscure, a little wild. I think I do know what you're talking about. I have seen some weird stuff, you know. I've seen stuff in the roads where you're always like, how did that get there? You know, I could see, like, shoes flying off. Somebody's got their feet hanging out the window, like Thelma and Louise, and then they lose a shoe, or, you know, maybe they got it in the back of the truck. A lot of people keep their boots and shoes in the back of trucks, and I could see them flying out. Or maybe someone, you know, was a victim of a hit and run, and that was evidence that you saw sitting on the side of the road. It's all that was left of them for their friends and family to collect.
Yeah, it's like you'll see it'll be adult shoes, sneakers, it doesn't matter. Children's shoes, but they're just sitting there. Someone has clearly, you know, they've been either thrown out or, like you said, they got patoots out.
Could be.
Shoes have fallen off, but I've always wondered, who tosses shoes out of the window of a vehicle, you know?
That's a good question, man. We may never know.
My mystery of the day.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in with your mystery of the day, man. If anybody out there knows who the shoe fairy of Interstate 44 is, feel free to leave it in the chat. Otherwise, John, go to the pharmacy and get your prescription refilled, my friend. And let's see if we can get those shoe hallucinations down to the bare minimum. Shall we?
Appreciate it, Ray.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later, pal. We got any more calls? All right, cool. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to let that wrap up the phone call section of the show, and then I'll be back in a jiffy from the number 2 show with the messages, comments, and your email bag right after this word from our sponsor. Okay, baby, I am back, and we are back, and I'm going to go ahead and look through the chat real quick. And then we're going to go into some messages and some comments that have been left in the past, maybe about past episodes or just a mailbag, because I want you guys to know that I appreciate you calling and leaving messages or emailing me and letting me sort through them and giving me interesting topics to talk about. It's always appreciated. Let's see here. In the chat, someone says, as a musician and a huge fan of comedy and wrestling, I've always been fascinated by the similarities in the carny/on-the-road lifestyle. And how it's kind of changed in the 21st century, too. Yeah, I will say I think I've said this before. There are a lot of similarities between being a stand-up comedian and being a professional wrestler, especially at the lower rungs of those businesses and musicians. You spend a lot of life on your road or on the road in a van with other guys or gals, driving to gigs you're going to lose money on for the experience that you're going to get and to build a fan base. I think both wrestling, comedy, and music are rhythmic. You know, you got to have wrestling, you've got your spots, right? You got to get to your spots, and there has to be a rhythm. There's a rhythm in the dance of professional wrestling and the getting a reaction from the crowd and behaving a certain way and having them feed energy back to you as you feed energy out into the world. And the same thing with music and the same thing with comedy. And we are all kind of modern day carnival workers just trying to get you on the tilt-a-whirl. You know, we're all smoking a big long cigarette, drinking a Keystone Ice, hoping for our day in the sun and fame. But a lot of us don't ever get there. A lot of us stay right there running the tilt-a-whirl. So it's a good observation. Let's see what we got here. Ooh, a blocked one. What's this one say? Nope, that one's not good. And let's see. This is a good question, and I don't know, but maybe somebody else will. How do some of the graffiti artists to a specific location with gravity involved without drawing attentions to themselves? You know, I've always wondered this myself. I guess I'm assuming they go out at night. They've got some kind of rig. I watched a special about street artists, and it seemed like they had some kind of rig to get in and get out, and like hanging off the side of railroad trestles and all sorts of buildings and, you know, heights that would probably kill you if you fell, and they just take their spray cans with them, dude. They're like modern day Batman. They're just rappelling down the side of a building so they can write fart or whatever on the side of it, you know. Fart knocker was here. You know, congratulations to them. What a great bunch of people. All right. That's all I got for that. If anybody else knows more about graffiti artists, feel free to hit me up because I don't fucking know. All right, let's go to the chat here. Let's go to some messages that have been left for me. Here's a good one. Hello, Rafe and the number 2 show. Hello. I've been binge watching documentaries about alien encounters lately, and it's got me thinking, with all the recent news about UFO sightings and government disclosures, do you believe we've been visited by extraterrestrial beings? Or is it all just hype and conspiracy theories? Let's get into the possibilities of life beyond Earth and the evidence or lack of evidence for these encounters. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Best, X-Files fanatic Jason. All right. Thanks for the message, Jason. Thanks for the email. That's a good question. Let's start with the first part. Do I think aliens have visited Earth? My answer to that would be probably yes. Do I necessarily think that we have had specific encounters with them? I don't know. A lot of me thinks that they could have come at a different time in our civilization. I often think about time as a linear thing. We've only been around for, I don't know, a couple 100,000 years, and we're talking about a 1 billion year lifespan on Earth. Who knows when aliens came and buzzed this place up? Could have been during the dinosaur era. Could have been, when we were all still Neanderthal apes. It could have been before there were even dinosaurs. Could have been when there was nothing but microbiotic life on the planet. My guess is if they've come anytime recently, they're probably like, nah, we're good. We're kind of like the east side of the universe, like you only go over there if you're really drunk and you want to see some titties or something like that. But other than that, I would imagine aliens pretty much steer clear of Earth for that reason. There's just a lot of problems down here, man. Like we got a lot of cool stuff too, but man, a lot of problems, a lot of issues. And I would think if you have intelligent life that can visit us undetected and travel light years across galaxies in the universe, we're probably like a big galactic trailer park to them, I would imagine, Not that that's a bad thing. They probably went through that in their society at some point too. I would just imagine that they're not looking to bring us into the Intergalactic Guild right away. They're probably like, these guys need a couple 100,000 more years to develop. And I often wonder if, I have thought about this. There's a lot of conspiracy theories around technology. If you think about tech, right? I read something the other day that was like, it took us, the Stone Age was like 100,000 years. And then the Industrial Revolution was a couple of 100 years. And then the information has been only like 50 years. But we've doubled the amount of things that we've had happen in this short time span of tech since it started. How much smaller the world's gotten and all the advancements in technology to the things that we can do. We're developing at a much more rapid rate. And a lot of people think that has to do with alien technology getting reverse engineered. Like maybe some of our government made a deal in the 60s and we got some of this technology that we weren't ready for vis-a-vis internet trolls and conspiracy theories and AI and deep fakes and all of these things that seem to be ruining society right now. We don't have the attention span to have access to these things 24/7. And I often think about one of my favorite books is a Kurt Vonnegut book. I believe it's Sirens of Titan. And there's an alien called the Tralflamadorians, and it's more of a satirical alien, and he's talking to a human being, and he tells the human being in the book, he's like, when he asks about the aliens and how they communicate, and he says, well, it's kind of like a cloud. Like all the information of our society exists outside of us, and we have access to it with our minds anytime we want it. And the human says, well, what do you mean? And he said, just think of it as a cloud where all information lives, where we can all view it anytime we want. Your tiny human brain wouldn't be able to comprehend what I'm talking about. That book was written in like the 1940s or 50s, and it kind of predicted the internet. I mean, if you think about what he's talking about there, about all the information living in a cloud, I mean, we call it the cloud. I don't know. Seems like Kurt Vonnegut's Alien in the 1950s novel kind of predicted what we got going on, in 2024. So maybe some of our science fiction writers are prognosticators of real things in the future. Maybe they know something we don't. Maybe we have made a deal with an alien civilization. Maybe we're trying to create a civilization to mirror theirs for their acceptance. Who knows, man? Life's wild. Most likely, though, I find it hard to believe that we could exist in a universe this vast and there wouldn't be some sort of life. But, the thought that we are alone is also really scary. sometimes I think we need there to be others. Because if you start to think about the vastness of the universe and the infinity that goes on past the edge of the universe, of the observable universe that we have, if you start thinking about all of that, what if we're all there is? What if this little marble that we treat like shit, that we fight over imaginary borders that we made up, what if this is all there is? What if there is no one else? What if there is no other civilization? There are no others. There's only us, and it is just vast desert everywhere else. We are the cradle of life. We are the only place it exists. That's a scary thing to think about if you think about how we treat each other. And there's a really good, you guys should check it out. There's a really good, like a 20-minute documentary, I guess, for lack of a better word, called The Overview Effect. And let's see if I can pull it up here. And basically, to give you the cliff notes of The Overview Effect, the guy that works at NASA named Frank White wrote this. I actually had him as a guest on a podcast one time.
Streamline these ideas.
Oh, Lord. Let me turn off the volume so you don't have to listen to an ad that didn't pay to be on this show. The Overview Effect is essentially every astronaut, cosmonaut, anyone who's done space travel has had an unintended religious experience over something they called earth gazing. Now, what has happened is a lot of people go into space, and what they didn't expect is to look back at the earth and see the earth as a single organism, right? Because from the sky, you don't see the map. You don't see the boundaries. You don't see the United States and Canada and Mexico. You don't see Eurasia. You don't see, and nothing's divided up. It's all one, and it's all protected by this thin, very susceptible layer of atmosphere that's protecting us from the harsh vacuum of the universe. And when people look back and they see the earth that way, they have a shared religious experience, and it's been reported by Japanese astronauts, Russian astronauts, United States astronauts, anyone who's ever done space travel. They all have this shared experience of seeing themselves as citizens of Earth as opposed to citizens of the country that put them into space. And they start to it changes. There's like a paradigm shift in their brain where they start to see the world for the fragile ecosystem that it is, and that it's all related, and that we need to do everything we can do to preserve and save Earth. So I have hopes that if there is a good outcome from commercial space travel, is that maybe more people will have this experience. And if more people feel this way, maybe we can improve the world we live in. Can you put my thing up right now? I'll show you the beginning of The Overview Effect. It's very good. Everyone should watch it. So this was made by Frank White. It's very moving. It's only 19 minutes long.
They didn't land, but they did circle the moon. And I was watching it on television, and at a certain point, one of the astronauts casually said, "We're going to turn the camera around and show you the Earth." And he did. And that was the first time I had ever seen the planet hanging in space like that. And it was profound.
I think that for me, like for many other people, it was quite a shock. I don't think any of us had any expectations about how it would give us such a different perspective. I think the focus had been, we're going to the stars, we're going to the other planets, and suddenly we look back at ourselves, and it seems to imply a new kind of self-awareness.
Anyway, it's kind of a summary of what I just talked about, but I recommend it. If you haven't seen it, you can get it on YouTube. Maybe I'll even share it on the socials later, but that was a good question. I don't know how we went from alien encounters to the Overview Effect, but hey, that was a pretty good segment of chat and emails, and I appreciate you guys. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, get into an outro, and get the hell out of here. All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, you shitheads. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for everybody who left messages in the chat. Thanks to all my callers who called in and asked all sorts of questions about pooping, standing up, leaving shoes on the side of the road, and audio graphic novels. We covered a lot of ground on the number 2 show today. And if you get a chance, check out The Boys. Leave me a message about shows you wish didn't get canceled, because I'd like to talk about that again in the future. And if you get a chance, check out The Overview Effect, which came out of nowhere from a chat about whether or not aliens were real. If you want to talk about something, we probably talked about it today on the number 2 show. It was a nice little poopery. We went all over the place. Those are the kind of shows I like. So until next time, you can be like Valerie's husband and wipe your ass standing straight up saluting the flag, or do it the way you do it. Just make sure you do it. Don't forget to wipe. You don't want to put that on somebody else. Thanks for joining me, Rafe Williams, host of the number 2 show. Until next time, be good to one another.